And in this video, I want to share with you an update. It's been 1 year since I had started Bright Line Eating, and I wanted to sort of give you an update as to where I'm at. Today being 365 days. What have I been doing? What's next for me? And what are my thoughts about Bright Line Eating, especially if you are starting on this journey for yourself? But you're just to watch this. This will be a brief video. But so here today is August 8th, 2018, and it was a year ago today. You can actually go back and take a look in my list of videos. It was a year ago today that I began the 2-week challenge, the 14-day challenge that Susan Pierce Thompson, the author of Bright Line Eating, that she has. There's a program. I started it a year ago today. And what is Bright Line Eating? Now, if you are familiar with the book, if you're not familiar with the book, get a copy. I haven't referred to it in a while because I've been doing this now for a year. And but picking it up, I am just re-inspired. So if you look at the video I did from a year ago and where I'm at today, I don't quite look the same as I did. I stepped on the scale this morning, which is something that I don't do very often anymore. It's not something that I'm so interested in. Here, a year later in perspective, so where am I at weight-wise? Well, as I stepped on the scale, I did last week as well. It's been the same, and I'm at 195. Now, what is that? Is that good? Is that bad? Well, it is what it is. It's just a number on the scale. I don't judge myself based on a number on the scale any longer. It's taken some time to do that and come to that place. But so 195, I am about 7 pounds heavier than where I had started my maintenance with Bright Line Eating. I was going through here, and actually I have this was what I had printed out, the maintenance food plan, and this I printed this out a year ago, and once I got on maintenance and started using the food plan for maintenance, I made adjustments and I went down and I checked off things as I began adding food back into my plan. Now, what does that mean, adding food? If you're not familiar with Bright Line Eating, here is Bright Line Eating is similar to if you were to take a look at like smoking. And when someone has quit smoking, there is a line that they draw. I am a non-smoker now. I do not smoke. Well, with Bright Line Eating, it's very similar. And there are 4 bright lines that we don't cross. Or if we are following the program entirely, we don't cross these bright lines. And what are the bright lines? No sugar, which means no sweetener of any kind, because life is sweet enough. And food is sweet enough. And when we stop drowning our taste buds and inundating them with artificial sweetness, and I'm even talking about natural sweeteners. These are things that have been manipulated and processed in order to get as much concentration of sugar in one place. If we stop doing that to ourselves, then we can actually begin to wake up and taste sweetness when it really exists, instead of something that is manipulated and processed. So no sugar, also no flour. This means anything that's been processed and ground and manipulated once again in order to create additional surface area, such as, corn. It becomes corn flour. It's not the same thing. When we take wheat, if you were to try to eat wheat or wheat berries and then to grind it, totally different experience, not just in how you would use the product, but also what it does once it's inside of your body. So no sugar, no flour. What's the third? The third is about we follow a structured plan, and we weigh and measure our food. These are basically the 4 agreements. So we have a plan, we follow the plan. So now, here being a year later, what am I doing? So it has been 365 days that I have not consciously Have I had any sugar or flour over this past year? I'm going to put an asterisk. I'm going to say no with an asterisk. Um, I have maintained those two bright lines. No sugar, no flour, consciously. Of course, following the program, if I were to have a processed food where sugar and flour isn't, if you've read the book, if you followed Susan and what she says in Bright Line Eating, if you are eating a processed food and it has sugar in the not in the first three agreements, but in the fourth ingredient or later, then that food is permissible. It's not something. It's not ideal. I think ideal is fresh and whole and complete, eating things that don't have ingredients. How about making your own combinations of whole foods and then having a meal that way? And to me, that's what Bright Line Eating supports us in eating whole foods. Not the grocery store, but eating whole non-processed foods, foods that don't come in a bag in a box, that don't have ingredients. But let's say you do eat something as ingredients. Over this past year, I have not eaten something consciously that has had sugar or flour in the first three ingredients. And I really try to avoid adding processed foods anyway. So over the past year, I have maintained those, and those two alone have kept me sane. I eat. Now, where have I fallen off the wagon, so to speak? This has been the challenge for me, and this is what I am renewing myself, because I'm 7 pounds heavier than I would like to be. For my health, it isn't my clothes fits well. I'm feeling good in my body, but just as I look at the standards of health, and I look at my body, then I know that I'm consuming some more food, and that's probably been my downfall. It's just an observation, not a judgment, but I have strayed away from having 3 meals and also weighing and measuring my foods. And there are certain foods that are, I don't want to say triggers, but I'm inclined to really not want to weigh them. Rice is one of those for me. Rice is something that this morning, what I did, knowing today's my anniversary, I actually, I weighed my rice today. I weighed it out because I'm aware that I don't, that I tend to eat more than I should. Another food that is a trigger food for me, and that I'm today, being on this anniversary, recommitting myself to, is nuts. Not so good for Alan. I mean, not so good in that it can become a binge item. The only nuts that are binge are when they are salted and they are, they have been roasted or. So if I were to get natural cashews that are unsalted, and those tend to be the ones that I go for, right? The starchier ones. I need to stay away from that. So here today, so if you are considering Bright Line Eating, I'm going to be talking more about this. Actually, I'm putting together a podcast that, because my interest in Bright Line Eating is really about supporting myself in a way. It isn't about just being religious about a program, but it's about supporting myself, finding ways to support myself and being happy, thin, and free. I like to say fit, trim, and healthy. That's how I say it. And happy is good there. Fit, trim, health, and happy. How about that? Find ways that support me in that. So what I know that does work for me is no sugar, no flour, which I'm continuing to do. What I would love to get back to, where I feel good and about myself, is when I'm actually eating 3 meals. And now I know that in Bright Line Eating, there are only 3 meals for myself to maintain some sanity, and actually now that I'm in maintenance, I like to have a 4th, I used to have, I call it a metabolic adjustment, just to keep my sugar from getting too low so that I don't wake up ravenous. And so I like to have 3 meals and something in the evening that contains some type of protein in order to keep me feeling satisfied. So that's what I'm committing to today. Today is to bring back into my Bright Line program no sugar, no flour. And when you get those out of your system, and it's just a non-negotiable, has it been hard over this past year? I think the hardest was making the decision to start. That was the hardest part, was making the decision to start. When I was in the food and eating the sugar, and then it was hard to say no. Like when you talk to anybody now and you say, oh, I'm not eating sugar and flour. You go, oh, I could never do that. Well, you can't when you're doing it because it keeps you locked in. But if you once you stop eating that and are feeding yourself with non-processed foods, what happens gradually over time, then your taste buds change, they shift, your patterns change. And that's what you have to do. You have to make the decision to start and to not stop. And that's what I've done over this past year. Sugar and flour, it's a non-negotiable for me. And where I've gotten lax in about eating the meals and weighing and measuring, I feel better when I'm doing that. So in support of my feeling good about myself, that's what I'm committing to, going back to having 3 meals and really measuring my portions and sort of tightening up those lines. You know, I may have been coloring outside the lines a little, but the time has come to where just to adjust, make a little course correction. So if you are contemplating bright line eating, I encourage everyone, if you have any issues around food, if you consider yourself an emotional eater, do the test that she has on her website, brightlineeating.com. Go and do that. See where you're at in response to food. If you consider yourself an emotional eater, if you find yourself eating, grazing at night or through the day, you find yourself regretting eating things that you know you shouldn't have eaten, bright line eating, I absolutely recommend it to everyone and anyone. Now, do I think everyone's a food addict? No, that's not the case. Am I a food addict? I have struggled with food addiction around sugar and flour throughout my life. And so knowing that about myself, I can act like an addict, then I need to stay away from those things that trigger that behavior and that sabotage me being, what is this? Being happy, thin, and free. And so if you're considering it, definitely get into the program, do the challenge, do the boot camp if you're so inclined. I will tell you, in the 14-day challenge and in the book, there's everything you need to know. Just do it. I get questions from people about this and all of this hand-wringing and how it's very simple. Follow the right lines. And a year later, you can be in the same place where you're wearing clothes in the size that fits. When you look in the mirror, you like what's looking back at you. That's what I wish for you. So give yourself the gift of saying no to those things that are not natural in nature. And feed your body. Listen to what your body is really asking for. It's not asking for more junk. It's asking to be nourished. Just as our souls are asking to be nourished and fed and cared for, so is our bodies. And Bright Lines are a powerful way to support yourself in caring for yourself, caring for your health, caring for your body. So I will keep you posted. I said a couple times I'll do monthly. We'll see how this unfolds. I am working on a podcast because there are so many people out there doing this that I would love to hear others and their stories and their experiences as well. Let's all support each other on this journey. Wishing you all the best on your Bright Line eating journey and experience, and I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming video.